Hi, this is Nuts Feinstein, Amateur Night, another edition of Hasidic Nurses Notes. And today is the 4th of June and the 19th, and finishing up the 19th of the month of Sivan. Tonight's topic will be computerizing belief in Hashem. And it's not going to be anything like you expect, but it's the best I can come up with for a title. Now I'll get into details. So, to begin with, as I said, that we try to keep in mind some concepts, not exclusive, they're not entire, but are helpful to have in mind. And that is Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing but God, nothing outside of God. And Kol B'Yedei Shemayim, everything is by the hand of heaven, except, they call it the fear of heaven, which is brought down to mean that putting our will aside and doing God's will. What is God's will? That's what's presented in the Torah, uh, the commandments for the Noachites and commandments for the Jews, people who are Jewish, and both are essential. I'd like to make that expression again. That if the Jews are a light to the nations, it means the nations are necessary and both have a role. And it doesn't mean they're exclusively, mutually exclusive, a lot of combinations, but mutually essential. So tonight will be a little more universal. I am. This is for people like yourselves. I don't think it's directly, but you may have an experience where you have to explain something, and which I did, and I'll give it over to you, and maybe help you in your communication with others, and perhaps your own belief. And another group I had in another area. I had a member who I only communicated with phone and with Zoom, and he, like many, had one religious background, and he wasn't satisfied with that, and he was from South America, and he found another religion to delve into, and he found it culturally very stimulating because of the locale of much of that group, their culture and ways. But again, the dogma and the belief system and everything that much went with it, that was not for him, and he quietly sort of slipped out of it, and was still believing in God and believing in the words of the Torah. If he used that term back then, I don't know. But he came to Noahide, and I was introduced to him by a rabbi. Was I called because I had a seminar and I mentioned, and he said, "Oh, I have someone for you." So I got in touch. So I present mainly to the positive, or not the positive, I mean, of course, positive, but my way is to present uh, what is Judaism, what is Noahide. And I don't get into comparative religion. I kind of make that clear. Not a comparative religion course. I mean, there are places for it, and people have questions, and whether they should have these questions or not, I'm not going to even discuss. But nevertheless, I had done a lot of work in the past with missionaries and their packages that they would try to sell to people, and their reputations that were developed over the years. And by the way, as far as that's concerned, that many of the books you'll see, if you happen to be in that direction, to refute the other religion that they were made hundreds and hundreds of years ago, not more. A lot of the refutations, verses, biblical verses being distorted, and or how they really are not applicable. And so many of the new books are based on that. Uh, Not to discount the new books, some how they're presented, how things are presented, can make an impact. But I didn't. I don't try to do comparative religion. I got stuck in that one time. I didn't realize what I was doing in the conversation, trying to answer questions, and it's for some people there's no answers. It's yeah, but. But going on from that, so um, I received a video from this young man, and so I opened it up, and it looked to be a person from the locale and the religion he had recently left, and I'm kind of wondering why did he send me this? But he sent it, so I'll take a look. So I opened it up, and it begins the presentation. Uh, wasn't in any language that I can translate. I understood what the language was from hearing it, but there were some English subtitles. And problem was that I couldn't expand the picture to get a better view of the subtitles, and also they were changing over quickly. So I was able to get concept, but I wasn't get every sentence. But it was enough to see that this person was praising this other religion he obviously was involved with, it seemed. And again, I said, why did he send me this? What's the point? And went on for a little while, and all the positive reasons and views and so forth until he said, but, and then he began refutations. And this was a while ago. I didn't review it often to memorize what he said, but it was clearly he did a better job than any of us could have done to refute this religion. Okay, good. Now I see why he sent it, I guess. Although, again, I don't usually delve into this and use these kind of conversations. And okay, but he sent it. But then, so we had X, Y, and we have part Z. He begins to say, and therefore, I'm telling everybody out there that stay away from monotheism. Stay away from belief in one God. It's nothing, from what I've seen in my experience, it's nothing but problems and um, horrific results of conduct, and go on and on. And I'm like saying, all right, it's good he saw this religion for what it was, but for him to make this broad statement, I don't know how many people were watching him, but this is really counterproductive. As a matter of fact, I saw a debate one time with a very famous journalist who was pro-Israel, pro-Jews, himself not being Jewish, and the debate was with him, and he had a young lady from someplace in Central Africa, I believe, and someone from this religion again that my friend and this other person on the video were talking about. And they also said, or the lady from Africa who had previously been in that religion said, also staying away from monotheism. So here we have a clear cut necessity for Noahide because people turn away from the other side, but they don't know what's out there and where to go. And then what are they going to turn to? Now, that could be any religion. And the places they turn to could really be serious problems. But how do you get this message out? So I said, wow, this is the validity of Noachide. All right, so I wasn't making any presentations in mixed crowds except the Noachide group, and they were pretty comfortable where they are and their belief. But it bothered me to hear this that such a slap on monotheism, and therefore that included Judaism, as far as anybody didn't was ignorant to Judaism was concerned. So a while later, at our Shabbos table, we had some guests, some young people, friends of my wife's children. One in particular, a young man, I guess in his 20s, late 20s, and a very presentable person, very bright, very receptive. Um, really knew how to speak to people um, with dignity and pleasantness. And so, in the course of the conversation, I don't know what the link was, but I brought up this video that I saw, and with the dilemma of what here's a person who is refuting one religion and therefore making the statement that all monotheism and belief in God is detrimental. And I said, what do I do with this? So this young man says, well, I agree with him. Wow, that's more than I was expecting, or less than I was expecting. And, and like I was stunned because he had a very significant background in Judaism, and for his reasons, that he got turned off to it enough to be anti. And there's much more I could say at that moment. I had to really regroup. I'm not a quick debater, and so I had to let it go. But I'm saying, what do I say? As a matter of fact, it just brings up a quote in the Pirkei Avos again. It says, "Know what to answer to a non-believer," among other things, in the flow of a Mishnah. And by the way, the Rebbe Lubavitch commented on that. And if I remember correctly, I was listening to a simultaneous translation. The Rebbe says, you need to know what to answer, but you don't necessarily have to answer. Interesting. What to think about. And I thought about it. And number one is at that moment, you may not be able to get anything through to this person. They have their belief, and an immediate debate will probably be fruitless, if not counterproductive. All right, so you can say, well, don't try to refute it. But it says know what to answer. So what does that do you? What good does that do you? So number one, I didn't see this from the Rebbe. If you had any doubts in your own mind, um, God forbid, but you're trying to learn about what to answer a non-believer, it strengthens your own belief. And not only that, I believe that if the person sees you sitting comfortably with what they said, feeling like or sensing that you have no need to refute what they said, this could be a very significant initial effect. Okay, so anyway, I took that as my excuse for not challenging this young man, and I wasn't going to see him again. He was out of town, but nevertheless, I carried this with me. What do you say? He had a background. So this is what I came up with. Again, I'm not telling you it's something you can use or need to use, but like I said, it's amateur night, and I'm I made this video, so I'll give it over. Is that in life, and there's a lot of wisdom out there, and a lot of times we don't have access to it. And that's one of the reasons actually I became involved with Judaism myself, because even with my secular education, which was kind of extensive, not over extensive, but kind of extensive, that there are still questions in life or situations that I wasn't comfortable with. I was still searching, and there were actually some problems or outlooks that I didn't even realize I had. And when you start reading the literature, as most of you do, you start to see that this your own thinking is nothing new under the sun. Other people have had the same questions, and even before I really began to probe about the existence of God, what it really meant and what my relationship was, I still looked at the Jewish literature, and I searched the Jewish literature because I'm Jewish, and I said I want to find out what my religion has to say uh, with knowledge that's out there that we're not getting that we need. And that's when I started going to courses. I had a couple of hints from quotes I heard here and there throughout my life, knowing that Judaism had something, which is an understatement, of course, but my background, and I didn't hear this information. So I'm thinking to myself, what does a person, where does he get his information for life? So without the religion, without the philosophies, I guess you say it's trial and error. You hear this thing, you hear that thing from different sources, and your own um, conjecture of reality. So you try something out, and it could be a year or two. You find out that it's not worth it, or it doesn't work, or it's not substantial or sustainable. Um, Not that I'll give you a Torah role, which is going to take you through every situation in life perfectly. But again, you'll see, and have you seen the extent of Torah wisdom? It's God's wisdom, but even not attributing it to God, which we shouldn't do. But and it's been handed over thousands of years, and all these experiences have been experienced before. You'll find some things in the Talmud, or even laws of agriculture, the Jewish code of law, which shows incredible insights on the behavior of animals, plants, soil, weather, and the like, from thousands and thousands of years ago. And business law, what you can expect from people in certain situations. So I said to myself, well, I'm going to beat my head up against the wall. At least let me use some advice from people who have been there and done that, and more than once and over years. So we have all these experiences in life out there, all this wisdom, all these philosophies. So, what does a person do to take all this information plus your own personal intellect and emotions and blend that into a operating system? As with a computer, you have your hardware, you have your software, the programs, and anything else that goes in the middle, which I'm not very well versed. But nevertheless, the computer needs something that'll mesh this all together into a workable unit. So we as human beings need that too. Some don't realize it till later or realize it at all. But for those who do, I think you understand what I'm saying. So what does a person use? What does he make for operating system? All right, you want to reject all religion? So where are you going to get your advice? Again, this is something I mentioned with secularism. Secularism itself, I don't find it really is a source of values and morals and ethics and a conscience. What's going to be the motivating factor, even though you know what to do when times get tough, you're under stress, and emotions come forward, or even your intellect begins to doubt what you believe in? So God, belief in God, knowledge of God. So to kind of sum it up, the person says he's an atheist or anything close to that, rejects religion altogether. Where's he going to get his information? And whatever information he gets, how long will it take till he sees that he can or cannot integrate it, or it needs tuned up, or he's on the track with something but on other things? So this is the beauty of Torah, belief in God, that you have so much access to God's wisdom, creator of the world. Now, dealing with that briefly, using the wisdom of the Torah, in the Pirkei Avos, there was a scenario where it says a rabbi saw a skull floating on the water. And he said, because you drowned others, others drowned you. And those who drowned you will ultimately be drowned. And I mentioned this before. A commentary on the ethics of the fathers said, "Let's hope that the final retribution doesn't come from another person, so that the chain of revenge or divine justice doesn't go as and continue as a chain effect from person to person, kind of never ending. If it's going to happen, maybe a natural occurrence, because we don't have the um, option for revenge, not even for grudge, and not to hate someone in their heart, but to use tools for trying to find resolution, whether it be the courts, courts of justice, um, arbitration, similarly to a tort court, and talking to the person personally if you can, expressing not their deficiencies, not degrading them, not embarrassing them in public, but explaining what happened to you and what you experienced from their conduct directed towards you. So with that in mind, is we can thank God we have the Torah. God gave us His wisdom and a partnership to make a world a better place. And Shabbos is coming up, so I'm going to start the preparations for that tonight. We've already started. I wish you a good weekend, a good Shabbos, and hope to speak with you again. And we'll see through our efforts that bring Mashiach to bring the ultimate redemption now. God bless you all.